A mysterious legend encounters Mormon missionaries. While trading stories around a campfire, my friend recalled an encounter he had while serving an LSD mission. My friend's mission region had a reservation within its borders. However, it was relatively far from where he was serving. On one occasion, him and his mission companion were asked to travel further than usual to meet with some investigators. This took them near the reservation. On their way home, their car ran out of gas, and it wasn't until late at night that they were able to continue the journey home. My friend, who was driving while his companion slept in the passenger seat, chose a different route that took him through some back roads in an attempt to get home sooner. He told us he was driving above the speed limit when he noticed movement in the woods lining the road. Because coyotes were common in the area, he took little notice at first. Then he looked out the window and slammed on the brakes. The sudden stop jolted his companion awake, who immediately wanted to know what was wrong. My friend was shaken and said he would tell him once they got home. He asked him to say a prayer. By the time they made it home, his companion was dying to know what had happened. My friend told him, "I looked down at the road next to the car and saw 6 men running on all fours, keeping up with the car. I was driving 40 miles an hour. The Yenal Dulce has found me. My grandmother, on my mother's side, has always been very superstitious, for lack of a better word. She's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo, and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana, and she grew up in Nevada. One year, when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful. Typical boring old people stuff, except she always kept her curtains drawn shut and would always peek out the window, and when someone asked what she was doing, she would simply reply, "Yenal Dulce is watching me." This went on for nearly an entire visit until a few days before we were due to leave. My grandmother and my then baby brother, he's 19 now, were in the front yard that evening, planting flowers, when all of a sudden my grandmother starts shouting, "Insert little brother's name here. Get away from that creature. It's not safe." Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake. So we all ran outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother and shaking in terror against the side of the house. Standing out in the yard was a large, black, Great Dane-sized dog. It was staring at my grandmother with an intensity I'd never seen before. It looked up at us, gave a little huff, and bounded off. I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, "The Yenal Dulce has found me." She moved a couple weeks after that. A coyote walking on 2 legs. I was told this story once. My dad isn't a bullshitter or a liar, so I know the story is true. So this was the very early 80s, and my sister, who lived in Toronto, came down to visit our parents for a weekend. She was staying at a friend's house, who loaned her a car so she could come out. After her visit, she left a little after 9 p.m. She got maybe 7 to 8 miles away when the car broke down. Thankfully, she broke down in front of a friend of the family's house. They let her in to call Dad, and Dad came to get her. The family said she could leave the car in their driveway for the night, and my sister decided to just stay at my parents' for the night. It was now a little after 10 p.m. and pitch black, late November, while my sister and Dad are driving back to the house, and they pass through a heavily wooded area. Out of nowhere, they hear the incredibly effing loud, inhuman scream that they heard over the engine, then talking in the radio. Dad slammed on the brakes, and they both started freaking out, when suddenly a 6-foot-tall coyote walking on 2 legs with a black and white striped tail appeared on the side of the road and proceeded to walk in front of the car. As soon as it paused, that same scream played again, only this time 10 times louder. My dad slammed on the accelerator, and they got the F out of there. It was never seen again. The creature had a human face. My roommate has told me this story a few times, and I want to see if anyone else had similar experiences. As he tells it, he was driving home super late at night maybe around 3 or 4 a.m. in a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, both times that this occurred. The first time, he was driving alone on a road that has an open field to the left of it, when out of nowhere, a black figure on all fours bounds up out of the field and across the road in front of his car. As soon as the figure got to the other side of the road, it stops with inhuman quickness, turns around, and looks directly at my roommate. He described the figure as looking simian, completely black except for the face. The creature's face was a stark white human face, not white as in Caucasian, but white as snow. This happened again a few weeks later, but this time the creature was sitting in a tree. As his car approached, it climbed down the tree, again with inhuman quickness, bounded across the road, stopped on a dime, and turned around and made eye contact with him. This time, he had a friend in the car who also saw it and began freaking out. It was the exact same thing as the first time, a simian, black body with a snow-white, expressionless human face. My roommate, ever the curious one, turned the car around and began searching for the creature, but it was nowhere to be seen. The white masked creature. In Hunt for the Skinwalker, George Knapp and Colm Kelleher relayed the stories of those who came into contact with skinwalkers near Native American tribal lands. One account from a New Mexico Highway Patrol officer states that while patrolling the highways of New Mexico, he saw a skinwalker on 2 separate occasions. In his first encounter, a creature wearing a white mask appeared next to his window, seemingly attaching itself to the car door. But then he realized it was simply running beside the vehicle, keeping pace at high speeds. A few days later, and around the same area, he encountered the creature again. What makes this tale even more intriguing is that at least one other officer claimed to have seen the same ghoulish being while patrolling the area. This was no normal girl. According to an account from Darkness Prevails, not all skinwalkers are found around reservations, and even within the U.S., for that matter. This tale of terror comes all the way from Australia. While walking her dogs out in the Australian bush, a woman encountered a fearful sight. She was enjoying the trail when suddenly her 2 dogs started barking uncontrollably and becoming extremely agitated. Soon she saw what appeared to be a small female child, no older than 7. The child had her back to the woman, who was only a bit startled at first, as she believed the child was just part of a camping party. However, when the girl turned around, her eyes were lifeless and entirely black. Before the woman could make a break for it, the creature let out an ear-splitting howl and ran off into the bush, never to be seen again. She was left wondering if the child she saw was someone pulling a prank on her, or if it was really a shape-shifting skinwalker. She may never know. There were 2 skinwalkers. On the Ghost Stories blog Darkness Prevails, user John shared his story of how a relaxing midnight stroll turned terrifying when he came face to face with 2 skinwalkers. According to his chilling story, John was out late one summer night. While listening to music and enjoying the cool weather, he walked near a large empty field that was adjacent to a college campus. Suddenly, he felt something staring at him. Shining his flashlight out into the darkness, he saw 2 sets of glowing orange eyes staring back at him. The eyes were at least 7 feet off the ground and stared at him without blinking once. John made a mad dash for safety. As he was running, he turned back to see one of the creatures chasing him. John became even more frightened when he got a better glimpse of the fast-moving creature behind him. It looked like a giant wolf. Quickening his pace, John reached his home safely, but he remains fearful of the monsters he saw that night, which he believes were skinwalkers. Faster than any dog. There was one time I went camping with 2 of my buddies, but neither of them were real outdoorsy type. I was just kind of getting them into the whole camping hunting scene. Now I love hiking, exploring more like, because I hate just walking a trail. You're seeing nothing new. So took the 2 friends out there a ways and got 2 miles from camp when they just wanted to go back. I said fine and showed them where to go on my phone, and I made them put a waypoint on the other little GPS thing I had to follow. I wanted to keep going, so I did so by myself. They wanted the pistol. I had on me for safety reasons, leaving me to walk alone in the forest with water and nothing else. No big deal, I thought. I found a steep hillside with rocks all the way down when I was about 5 miles from camp and decided to go down. I followed the path at the bottom of this thing, which was at this point just a dry riverbed. I walked down and it got steeper as I went further south. When I crossed a certain point, something just felt wrong. I started trying to look around for anything, but there was a huge log across the two hillsides, and when I crouched down to crawl under it, it felt like I was being watched. I looked up to my left, saw nothing, looked around to see if there was anything in the middle of the riverbed, then looked up to the right. Huge black canine. Too small to be a bear, but it looked like a wolf on steroids. That dog creature and I held glances. What felt like hours, but I knew it couldn't have been more than 10 seconds. Every passing moment felt like the feeling of dread worse. I moved backwards to get the hell out of there, and when I moved, the wolf thing just booked it into the forest, further from camp. In hindsight, this thing was moving faster than any dog I've ever seen.